Happy Sunday. It is time again. Let's get into these charts. First, honor, glory, and praise to God for letting us see another day, start another week. I pray everyone had a blessed and wonderful weekend. Let's go ahead and get started. We need to prep for our week. I am going to pull up screener. Nope, sorry. I'm going to pull up calendar. I'm going to pull up our economic calendar and see what we have ahead. And CB leading index MOM. I'll have to look into this one a little bit more. So just a little bit of data here. 3-month auction, 6-month bill auction. We have Papa Powell speaking 7:30. That's before market opens on July. If you kind of been following all the chatter in the news, there was postings of Trump getting ready to fire Powell. Then he speaks and he's saying that's not true. I mean, it's giving the market whiplash. I mean, we'll be on a move and then all of a sudden, boom, Trump says something or a news article comes up. So I guess we have to figure out, what'll come from this meeting, but that's going to be Tuesday pre-market. So just be mindful of that. Not really sure what's on the agenda, so you can do your research to see what's going on there. Some manufacturing data. We have another Fed speaking, money supply, crude oil. So there is data, but we do have CPI and PPI behind us. So keep that in mind. And then, of course, on Thursday, we're going to get our unemployment data, S&P Global Composite, looks like some retail data. Friday, we have durable goods. Something else to keep in mind. Okay. But yeah, we do have CPI and PPI behind us, so we can kind of start to move on. I do want to look at the ZOM chart because ZOM took a really big dump on yesterday, on Friday, and I hate that I didn't have my alert set on this one, but I did miss ZOM's move on Friday, but it took a nice little pullback. So let's look at the daily chart on ZOM, see what's going on. All right, so one thing to keep in mind is that ZOM does have earnings on Friday the 1st, but they did get a strong pullback to the 200. That's right after we get this crossover. So let me zoom in for you. This is the wolf chart. This is the 12 EMA, which is my blue that's now turning red because we're under, price is falling under it. And then this is my 200 weighted moving average and still yellow. But I want to show you guys that we had this crossover, which was a nice bullish signal on ZOM. It ran up here, which we'll look to see on what's going on there. But as you can see from this candle here, as price gets to closer to like 116, that was on June 23rd, there was a strong pullback. So price retraced back there and again got another pullback. So we never got what we call the floating candle, which is price above the 12 EMA and also breaking this trend line here. If that were to happen, where we really look for resistance is when we get to 1782, if price is going to break above that 1692. So, ZOM has some challenges at this point in the chart. And I think our recent high on ZOM was somewhere around 120. Okay, so here it was. Our recent high on ZOM hit 126.34 back in October 2024, which I do recall that all playing out. And so, yeah, it's been pulling back ever since that high. And we're just going to have challenges to get back above to that high. They do have earnings again coming up. What I am seeing on the wolf chart is similar to this pattern here where we get the inverse arc right here, and then we get price pulling back to the 200. It's kind of making that M double top formation right here. So we get this bounce, pull back, nice retracement here, and then we get another bounce, and then we get a pullback again. So we're getting another, I don't know if I said inverse arc, but just an arc. This is an inverse arc right here when we get it at the bottom, and it's forming an arc here. So we're getting the arc again, overpriced. We're prices under this weighted moving average, weighted sorry, wolf trend moving average. And then we also have price pulling back to the 12 and the 200. Now the question is, are we trying to target this demand area or even lower with ZOM? What do we think is going to happen with earnings? But I would put ZOM on your watch list in case it does find support similar to this candle here at 109.64. Sorry, 107.15 is the price. We're looking at the low of the candle, which is pretty close to that. It's at 107.77 to close. So again, you can watch to see if support holds here. If not, we can definitely try to pull back a little bit more on some. But look at that wick. We have wicks right here, and where we can see when we look at it from the monthly chart is that we are just trying to hold this 12 and get back above this 12, but we're getting a lot of wick in this area. So that's another reason. I want to say even in our Discord alerts, I saw that ZOM had like lost a demand area. So that means that bull bears had taken over and they had lost an area of demand, which is a signal of potential pullbacks to continue to happen on ZOM. But here's what you can watch on the 2 week is that there's just a lot of choppiness. So ZOM could still pull back to somewhere around 104 and even lower. And as you can see in a 2 week, there's even more resistance. So that's what's creating a lot of the resistance every time ZOM gets right here is that it has to clear through all of this. And clearing through all of this would really just be breaking that all-time high. Which leaves the question is, do we think ZOM is ready to pull back into the 90s again? That'll be something to watch. I think last time they held support pretty well. That was in March when it pulled back to 97.80. And then after that, it was holding support pretty well when it pulled back around 101. So if it does pull back anymore, you can kind of pay attention to whether or not it is retracing back to 101, see if there's any news that can drive it in a different direction. But for now, I'm just wondering if it's trying to come back to the 90s again. But I will keep ZOM on my watch list. I'm not gonna go super bearish ahead of their earnings. It's just that from their all-time high, they've been struggling to break back above like 120-ish. Let's see what the 4 hour has. Yeah, so even the 4 hour has a demand from the wolf chart that you can see here. And so really we lose that order block that we're looking at 107.15. And then there's still support as it gets closer to 104. So it could still have a little bit of support found all the way to 104. But um yeah, right now it looks a little bearish on the charts for ZOM with this pullback. All right, we're going to look at the Tesla chart next, and we're going to take this one off and go to this one, get to Tesla. All right, so with Tesla, let's look at that 1 hour chart that we have been talking about, right? Remember, I kept saying from the previous videos in our live, Tesla really needed to clear a supply zone to really break out to the next level. Well, it's still chopping through that. And I mean, we would have to get above 331.10 to clear this resistance that I see holding it back right now. So that's going to be 331.10. I'm actually going to mark that on my calendar from where we are. And it came pretty close to getting there, but we'll have to see if we start to actually break and hold. And we're going to label it so we remember 1 hour bearish order block. Okay. So again, I've cleaned the chart, cleared my wolf chart just so you can just look at price action and you're gonna see the same thing, honestly, is that this has been an area that we've tried to break a few times. And you can see, look in June when it actually happened. I believe this was around Robo I don't even remember. June 23rd, it broke it and it peaked all the way up to like 357 and then immediately a sell-off and then an even stronger sell-off with the stuff happening. I believe this was the day that there was that issue, bait or fight, verbal fight with Trump and with Elon Musk. So that drove the stock down. The stock has pulled back, but look at the recovery on Tesla from here. Really clean recovery, especially when it broke this right here around 318. And I recall 318 being an area that we've talked about a few times in the past with Tesla. So even breaking around 318, it chopped a bit and then it pulled all the way up. So it closed the day. Let's go look at the daily chart now on Tesla. Tesla closed the day at 329.65, up $10.24. So it's been on an upcline from here. And again, we're going to start getting a little choppy, right, as we climb back up. But I think we need to pay attention to the fact that they have earnings. Let's put the wolf chart back on. I'm gonna add Pro so I can keep up with the cloud. And so, yeah, look what we have. It actually ran right up to where I was thinking it would, even here with this fair value gap. So even with the pullback, if there was going to be more push, it could potentially come up to this 340 area. Just realize that coming up to this 340 area, you're going to start getting some real choppiness here. And I mean, it's not really in the clear on Tesla until it breaks above what I have here as 367.34. Now we know that Tesla can have like this great earnings and okay, I see why I had it a little bit higher. So I'll keep it at 367.75. But as you can see, Tesla has earnings coming up. One thing you can always do is kind of look to see what a stock has done in their past earnings. So the last earnings was on the 22nd where they missed. And so what did Tesla do from this earnings? It was posted after hours on the 22nd, and they did a bit of a gap up, but didn't really do too much. So it was nothing grand to follow with Tesla. And so, yeah, I'm going to clean this up and remap out some potential targets on my chart for Tesla. But we're going to start with our previous day high and low and kind of track it from there. We're just going to have to also keep in mind that to clear resistance from that 1 hour, we have to clear 331.10. So after that, if we clear 331.10 and we push, we could get to about 335. And if we want to keep going, we can get to that 340 area. So we'll have to see what Tesla's going to have, whether it's going to have a good day or a bad day. But with the volume that could come in ahead of their earnings on the 23rd, so that's like Wednesday, we'll have to see if they have volume coming in or if they just kind of stagnate up until earnings is posted. Um, I've known people to get burnt by Tesla earnings. So if you're trying to trade and hold things through earnings, it just really has to be money that I guess you're okay with losing, Otherwise, you just don't want to be caught up in the potential move that can happen with Tesla if you're not certain of it. And I don't know if any of us can be certain of the market reaction. But looking at the chart, they have been climbing very well after this pullback to this trend line here that really started on June 5th. Gonna go look at the weekly chart next. And I have I'm sorry, this arc forming on the weekly chart, and price did pull back. A few of you probably know I have this 284.58 sitting here. I was like, it is so close. And it really did come pretty close to my target, 288. But after a good talk with our Black Wolf, right? Our handy dandy Black Wolf, I was able to close position and not get greedy on this. And I'm glad I did because as it got lower, it found some support and it bounced. So had I been holding swings and shorts even longer, I've just been messing myself up. So here, we just gonna watch Tesla again, measure your high and low, measure pre-market high and low and try to get clean direction. Don't just jump in. Sometimes even with Tesla, I've tested it out. using the first 15-minute price action is a good also to measurement of where price can go. You just look to see if it breaks that first 15-minute high and low. That's just another layer into your strategies. If you're really trying to be certain you're getting direction right, it can play out pretty well. Let's see if we can see it from the 15-minute on this chart for Friday when Tesla gapped up $15, right? So I'm going to take this anchored VWAP off. I really don't need it there. And I'm going to put the Pro away for just a moment. And we are going to look for Friday's 15-minute candle. This candle here, okay? All right, so the first 5 to 15 minutes, you get obviously a gap up already at opening on Tesla, and it pushes. And it gives this wick and pulls back, which, this is where, honestly, hold on, I'm going to mark this and then we'll take it down to the 5 minutes. So 326.21 was the high. So we'll just kind of we can make it a box. Let's just do box. Just going to put a box measuring this candle here, something like this. Not going to make it super perfect for the sake of time. We're just going to go here, right? And so once we created this box, this was your first 15-minute range on Tesla. And you can have this layered into your strategy if you just want to be certain of the move. And then, so it did gap up from breaking out of this box all the way to this 330 within the morning hours. And then it pulled back, retested it. And this is kind of like a chop area right here. Pulled back again, and it kept breaking out of this box. So this was a nice opportunity to do a second move on Tesla had you cashed out somewhere here when you're getting these wicks. Now, for us, we see also in the wolf chart, we get the inverse arc. So we don't really want to be caught up here. And we already know that we're in that 1 hour supply zone. So it's better to get the move, lock in profit, move on. This isn't nothing really that you want to be, I guess, trading with. It's a lot of sideways trading. You get the inverse arc here, and this is where you can see the wolf trend moving average working very well here because once we get the inverse arc here from this candle, you're able to ride this back up to the 330s. And then again, another top move, and then look at this wick right at the 15-minute high point. It tapped it and then it bounced right back up, closing at that this candle at 329.59. So sometimes if you look at it that way, price action might help. Measuring the first 15 minutes gives you that cleaner break. And it even aligns, this is the 5 minute chart. It even aligns with this first opening candle here. And then you get a pullback. So when you when the stock market opens up, when you get this big move, instead of chasing it, allow a healthy pullback because if you wait here, a lot of people would have started to panic when Tesla did this, right? Like when we get to this one candle here, some people may see, oh, I jumped in calls, but I don't think we're going any higher. A lot of people mess with ODTEs. And so you get kind of freaked out here. But with this fair value gap, with it not taking out pretty much half of this big candle here, just allow price to show you what it's going to do. So yeah, that's Tesla. Let's look at SPY. I do QQQ a lot, but let's look at the SPY. SPY was pretty simple too. Pretty clean move if you allow it to confirm direction here. It tried to wick some people out though. If you jumped into shorts, it broke the high right about right here with a wick. It would have tried to wick some people out depending on where you got in from that wick. I think also there at some point was some of the news about Trump firing Powell. I don't know if that was here or here. But anyway, I'm sorry, SPY was able to pull back yesterday, Friday, all the way down to 626. And it's holding support pretty good around 626.50. Um, the way you want to trade this one, I seen something very interesting actually. We can probably look at it I believe this was the 2018 pattern on SPY. So keep in mind what we're looking like here with this V-shaped recovery. I mean, it's grand. It's a grand recovery if you bought the dip in April. But when we take it back, oh my gosh, I wish I would have marked that break analysis that I've seen. But here is another example in the charts when SPY did the same thing in 2020 with this V-shaped recovery. I mean, very clean. Look at it. So you can go back in the chart and start to see some of the trends. This was also around March, not necessarily April, but around March. And then we get the break, break, and then we just begin to steadily climb up from there. But look at that V. Looks really familiar to what we just saw, right? We have another similar pattern here back in December, January of 2018, 2019. Nice V dip right here. What that's showing you is that when price is starting to have these pullbacks on the S&P and stuff like that, when you get a pullback like this, getting your entry and not being afraid when the market is panicking is showing us just by pattern the recovery at that time and how profitable that can be, right? It goes so high to stamp a new all-time high. And so we did it right here, pulled all the way back after stamping a high, and then it did put in a high, continue to climb, and then it just would give these pullbacks to 200. So seeing those examples should show you just how confident you can be once we start to get it. But look at what the wolf chart does, guys. Like right when you're looking to say like what is happening, we can see early detection with this wolf trend moving average that the trend is starting to reverse. And sure enough, it did. Yes, it did a little bit of choppiness here, but ultimately you're likely not to get stopped out of these pullbacks that happen right here. And then look how if you would have held position, bought shares, look what it did from this area here, your entry likely somewhere around here or here, it broke all the way and put in a break above the 200 and it tried to trend there. So I would just say, the next time you get a buying opportunity and we lose that 200, dip under it a little bit, find some demand somewhere under that 200. Don't be afraid to buy the dip. And I've coached myself into this as well, especially with grabbing shares. Even if you bought fractionals into this, you're still high in profit because you were able to follow your confirmations. This thing climbed since breaking the 12 in April 20, the week of on April 23rd. It broke the 12. We already had the inverse arc and it just climbed. Then we get this bullish crossover in May. That's another opportunity to enter and catch the ride up. That crossover is a bullish crossover, whereas this example is a bearish crossover. We got the 12 crossing under my 200 weighted moving average. Here's the reversal of that. And then a very beautiful recovery. So personally, I'm just waiting to see how much higher we're going to go with the S&P. But at this point, degree levels are high and the 200 is sitting right here waiting for that potential retest at some point. But I think we'll come somewhere if we do. Probably somewhere no less than 613. I would start to worry if we get under 613 right now. If we do, we'll come to the 600s, and obviously you don't want to get into the 500s again. We'll have to see if we ever see those 500s anytime soon before 2026. But yeah, all-time highs, the best that you want to do is just again find direction by measuring your high and your low. Even if you had measured high and low from Thursday to trade on Friday on SPY, you can see that the high was broken. I do believe that was more so at the very opening, and it went up to stamp another high point. This is insane, very bullish, and then it started to pull back. So measure your high and low, follow pre-market on SPY is my tip. Um, let's see. So if you've been following us from when we talked about QS on a few videos back, QS was able to break out, right? It broke out above 9.99, so basically above $10, and it has climbed $4. If you took the trade, you know whether shares or options contracts, you know that wasn't a very expensive move to make, but it was also a very profitable move to make. So now it is here where I think we can still squeeze a bit to 1524, but I'm not saying that before that happens, we don't get a pullback. So keep that in mind as something to watch on QS. You should start to at least lock in profit, have your stop loss adjusted to make sure that you don't lose a good trade here. But congrats to everyone that followed that with me. We also had RGTI, Rigetti. Rigetti is I mean, it's insane right here. So I think we were looking at it here, and so I was kind of just saying this will seem to be a fake out for me as I was watching it, and I just felt like if price was going to get back above 1270, it did very well, gapped up, and it just on this particular day, which was the 16th, it just really had a bullish move, $3.84, just to keep going right here. So with Rigetti, we have to look a little bit to the left. Key thing here is that now price needs to hold above 1620, right? Where we have this breaker structure. They broke this wick, and so that would be my target as support 1620, making sure that we hold 1620. So these lower levels, I can go ahead and clean that off of my chart and map out where we are now. And so I would, yeah, follow 1620. And then once we follow 1620, I think we can still squeeze about maybe into the 18. I wanted to go a little bit further out and see. Let's look at the weekly. Yeah, this is a very, I mean, even on the weekly, we have a breaker structure. And so now I'm just wondering, are we going to really try this time to get to 2140, 2142, the all-time high? Maybe. But I would watch once we get to the $18 and just kind of play it almost like $1 up moves and see how we're doing. You can toss in the fib if you wanted to, but ultimately you can see the all-time high here. So maybe the high of this candle, 1934, 2037, and then potentially 2142 from here. I'm not saying that's going to happen next week, but if we were to continue to get a bullish move, you can look at those targets. They have earnings posting on the 7th of August. So still time ahead of their earnings, and they're already showing some momentum picking up here. So Rigetti still looks good. I think the trend is still intact. You just want to make sure that you do have exit plans. Um, let's see what else. Webull has been making its move with announcements of bringing back crypto or adding crypto. Um, Webull is bringing back crypto trading in the US during crypto week is what we got. And just look at Webull. Now, I do think it pulled back after hours on Friday. I want to say yesterday so bad, but we can clean this up and just take a look at where we're at. So funny thing is, even after it was started moving, I was like, well, where's the next target that it can go? I added 1667 as a target. Just kind of looking to the left again of where it's been before. And so when you get to 1667, my target probably could have made it 1670, but this wick here and where prices was kind of m- stuck here, either breaking out or breaking under. I added that as like a point of reference. But if you want to just see how high up Webull can go since April, you could try to retrace back all the way to its high of $79, but I'm not saying that's going to happen. We're going to have to get a little bit more realistic. And I just want to zoom out to the daily chart real quick. I'm going to take all this pre-high off. Okay. I am gonna keep 1670 on my chart with an alert in case price pulls back here. You can see it right here based off of this candle. Um, but yeah, with this, we're getting price above the 12 EMA. We're getting arc, inverse arc here, all bullish signals with the breaker structure. Here's a change of character. So now I think if Weeble is going to climb any more, it's going to be looking at this to the left. So maybe somewhere around 1763, somewhere where price is holding around 18 and then maybe as high as 1884. When it breaks 1884, look at this candle and look at this candle. Somewhere around 1884, 1885 is going to be significant. So that still can be where we target. And actually, I'm going to put an alert at 1885. Yeah, 1885. And we just want to make sure we get alerted price does come here. And then look at that. Look at this wick. Look at these candles held up under it and it pulls back. And it also lost this as support. Um, and so it closed the gap, but then it kind of kept pulling back. So I don't know. Webull looks good here with news around crypto. And I don't know. I'm a big Webull fan. So we'll have to see what happens here, but I think if it's going to be bullish and you're going into trying to find a position, obviously waiting for a pullback is going to be one thing. Even if we can get it at around 14, $15, you can mark the high and the low and trade it like that. But I think overall we need to watch if price gets to 1885. One, if price is going to hold above 1670. But ultimately, if it does, price target next would be about 1885. That's going to be my projections on Webull. I'm not going to spend too much more time on Webull. CVX had some, I'm not going to look at the chart, but it did have a few, I think it was bearish alerts that may have came out of that one, but I did want to look at the Apple chart. I do know a few people are following Apple ahead of earnings. And so let's just pull that chart up. I personally don't think you want to miss the move on Apple if it starts to give that nice clear all of this out. And I would like to see the clouds. I'm gonna add Pro on this one. All right, boom. Now let's take a look at what we got. So as you can see, we already know that Apple catches, I mean, complete hell every time it's trying to break out and above this area right here. So really it needs to get above 214.55, get above this 200, break above 216.18, and try to retrace. I would think we can get to about 219, 220. As you can see, we have resistance here right at where the peak of this 200 cloud is, 223. But if I'm looking at it, I would think maybe we could squeeze to 222 as we start to break through some of these barriers here. And for it to get back to where we're starting to show strength, it really needs to climb out of this seller's area around 225. But I mean, it hasn't even been able to get past that 214. So that's what you're going to want to watch on Apple. Apple closed the day. I mean, it's just consolidating for its next move, if you ask me. It's literally in a box. You could literally draw a box here. Um, and you can base it off of the candle here, or just go to this resistance here. It's just a box. And I mean, it's just off the daily, so you can follow this range, but that's all it's been doing is bouncing around in this box that you see in a daily. Let it give some strength above 214. And then, you just take it down to a smaller time frame. So we closed at 211.18 with a $1.16 gain on Friday, but even a smaller box within a box, you can see that price needs to get back above 212.41, get back to testing 214.60s, and then go from there. I do still feel like Apple hasn't came tumbling down, so there is a chance that we do have support right around that 209 area, 208.58 and 209. So as long as we're staying somewhere above 208.58, I think there's that chance that we can challenge this 214 area again. Yeah, so price is trying to get in battle with the 12 EMA here. We've already had the inverse arc. I do want to take it to the 4 hour. And look at our little box. Once you draw a box, it's just going to follow you time frame to time frame. Similar story. I mean, if you get calls, try to get calls that has a time frame through July, maybe like the first week of August expirations. And what you want to do is try to keep your strike price under 216. So if you're going to get calls, you start to see we're giving that strong momentum volume. It's picking up. You can add your volume profiler on there. And if you see that we're going to have a breakout, make sure I would suggest, yes, you can go out the money, but if you want the most profitable and secure trade, I think calls under 216 makes sense. Calls under 216 would be the best. I'm gonna look for 214 or under for me, even like a 213 call. So that's Apple. I think again, it is showing some strength. And I think if we look at it, let me take this box off my chart. Yes, we're getting a nice crossover of the whole cloud, right? We're getting the 12 EMA, the whole cloud following at 12, and this 200 crossing, and this is a bullish crossover if we zoom in. Plus, we're getting a fresh inverse arc here. And so, yeah, it really is just watching to see. We know I would put 211.80 on my chart with an alert, just like that. That's what I'm watching. Okay. And we'll just see what happens there. And then calls strike price between 212, 214 if you're getting at this area. If you're waiting for that break and hold above this 214 battle zone, then you just want your calls to be still be under 216 from there, or as much in the money as you can get. And then just keep in mind, it would be ideal to have your expiration date, whether you hold it that long or not, to at least be maybe around August 8 or even a little bit more. If you're grabbing shares, then of course, just look to see. I would look to see if we have support here, but I think all the confirmations are coming together. Let's do this. I'm gonna demo Black Wolf off Apple chart using the 4 hour time frame, and then we'll wrap this video up from there. I'm not even gonna cover Amazon. I think the levels still remain, if I'm correct, they kind of still remain the same. All right, so I'm taking this 4 hour chart and we're gonna ask it to scan it 3 times. Right, so Black Wolf is going to break this down. Black Wolf is trained to trade off the wolf chart as if it was the creator of the wolf chart. So we're just going to let it go through scanning. So first scan breakdown, it went back and looked at it again. We have that inverse arc, like I told you. We're getting a nice steep and fluid, no flat line. That's all good. All right, so entry range. Ideal entry was at the close of the confirmation lock candle that triggered the wolf trend moving average cross above red. If missed, a retest opportunity can be anticipated. Look for a return into the arc zone without wolf trend moving average untangling, a floating candle confirmation above the 12 EMA cloud for a phase three entry. And so if we go back to that part right here, that would just be this break right here with the floating candle and That would also be being above the 12 EMA. So right now we have great confirmations happening here again with the inverse arc. So Black Wolf is giving some take profits. And first target is going to be 228 to 229, 233 to 235 as our take profits. That is a prior high from June, first structure resistance. So I'll take this back and map these target take profits on my chart. But I want to feed Black Wolf one more thing, and that's the 1 hour chart, because the 1 hour chart can give us an entry point too if we've missed the first confirmation on the 4 hour. And look at this, like they're kind of flagging right here, but Black Wolf can kind of see now where we have some resistance on that 1 hour chart. That is the battlefield for Apple, which is really, again, breaking that 214. So we're just going to take this chart. I want to expand it out a little bit more for Black Wolf. Okay. And I'm going to take a snippet of this chart, feed it to Black Wolf. So Black Wolf is a tool that we use that, again, is trained completely off the Wolf chart. Is actually able to train users through a certification that it takes us through. So now it's going to analyze the 1 hour chart, which could give us another breakdown of where we should find opportunities. So right now it's rating the structure at an 8 out of 10. Shorter term time frame targets would be 213.63, 214.34, and it's aggressive when it gets beyond 215. So yeah, it gives nice breakdown of what we can have as our targets. I'm not going to go any deeper into Black Wolf. It is a tool that comes with the Wolf chart along with having access to the Discord. Having and when once you're in the Discord, you get real trade alerts that give us signals to go and look at certain top movers. We get trade alerts that tell us when price is breaking out of these type of order blocks for stocks that we're watching. We also get master classes, and again, Black Wolf takes us through certifications. And I mean, you can talk to Black Wolf; it will call you out on all of your challenges as a trader, even break down psychology for you if you're struggling. So, just want to share those features with you. And as you can see, I don't have to go and ask Sean all the time about my charts. If I have any questions or need a second eye, I can just feed the chart. I can take all of these time frames from Apple and break it down to Black Wolf, and it will tell me the most precise entry points, which is how I was successful recently on a Nike trade and a few others. So if you're interested, I will have the link to the Wolf chart in our comment. It is subscription based, but you can look into that. And if you do get the Wolf chart, you'll have access to our Discord as well as um, master classes, previously recorded master classes. You'll get Black Wolf access and just other support. It's a great community there. And let me know if you have any questions. Let me know your thoughts and what are you watching so that when I do any more videos this week, I'll try to cover those in my next videos. But thanks for watching again, guys. Thanks for your support. Always like, comment, and subscribe. It does help me. It does let me know that you are appreciating and enjoying these videos. You find it valuable. And I'll just keep pushing these out. Have a great and wonderful weekend.